This has been a great week for news and information around certain systems like the PlayStation 5. Man, Mike Cerny went up there and actually did an interview with The Wire and talked about all of the features and functionality that we're going to receive in the next generation of Sony's flagship platform. Now, when it comes to this video, we're going to talk a lot about the price, but me personally, I want to get into a little bit of the specs to let you guys know why I think the price is going to be what it is. So the first thing you need to know is Mark Cerny, he actually did an interview with The Wire, and he did something that most people really didn't think he was going to hear just in a blog post from Sony. You actually got the actual specs of what the next PlayStation 5 was going to be. Now, they didn't call it the PlayStation 5, they just basically said the next PlayStation system, but everybody knows it's going to be the PS5. So first, let's talk about the CPU. It's going to be a 7nm Zen 2 Ryzen 8 core processor. Nothing to sneeze at there. Huge jump over what we had in the 8th generation. When it comes to that GPU, we're going to have a AMD Navi GPU that supports ray tracing. This is going to be brand new technology that was just introduced in the latest NVIDIA graphics card that just released. Another huge part of the PS5 will be the SSD, or solid state drive, which will use the new PCIe 4.0 connection. Cerny gave the example of 0.8 second load times compared to 15 seconds when tested on Marvel's Spider-Man. That is like a really huge upgrade, and loading times and just getting out of games is one of the biggest things that gamers really want the most. And if they can really deliver on this type of speed and accuracy when it comes to the storage, it's going to be pretty crazy. And last but not least, we have the resolution support. This is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be looking real side-eyed at, because they went all the way up to the potential of 8K support happening with this system. Now, Sony has come out and stated that games like Gran Turismo Sport will have the ability to go up to 8K resolution. It's just not a very mainstream thing right now because 4K is still being widely adopted by most people. But what they are stating is the PS5 out of the box will have this available support when it comes to 8K in the near future. But we are definitely presuming that you will be able to run at a native 4K for pretty much every application that you put on it. But the one thing I'm always worried about, what about that 60 frames per second on every game going forward? Now, this is some of the main bullet points, but he also did discuss that PS5 will be backwards compatible with seemingly all PS4 games, and it is based in the same architecture as the PS4. The PS5 will not just be a digital only system. Don't know why even people would think that that would have been the case, because a lot of people still buy physical media to this day. And some games will likely be released on both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. I already saw that coming. I think games like Ghost of Tsushima, I also think games like Last of Us 2 are going to be on both systems. It really just depends on when the PS5 releases. But I do think games like Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima will probably still see two different versions of the game come out, just because they probably want to have a PS5 moniker on top of those discs or even on top of those cases. But you'll be able to still use your PS4 game because the system will have backwards compatibility, and they will be working on some type of cloud functionality. No news really to talk about there, but they do want to talk about it in the future. They just don't have the right time to do it. And then we already knew about the PS5 having PSVR compatibility. You'll be able to use your old hardware on this system, but Sony is working on a newer version of the tech, but hopefully it is a wireless version. Now, these are all great features and great additions to the PlayStation 5. Mark Cerny did a really great job of putting this information out there. Shout out to Sony, not waiting to some event to talk about this. And that just lets you know that they don't need E3 to make headlines, because this has been basically headline news for the last couple of days. But let's talk about the price of this. All of these things sound really good, but if anybody thinks this is going to be bundled into a $399 system, man, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. I believe this system is going to be at least $499. Bare minimum, that is what this system's going to come in at. Now, that really doesn't mean that Sony isn't going to undercut themselves when it comes to that price point. $399 would be a very appealing price for a system like this. It has definitely been the number for the whole generation when it comes to the price point you want to hit. I just don't think Sony's willing to take that type of hit, because we already know they don't make a lot on hardware when they release it anyway. But it's really about getting as many of these systems in people's homes. So $399 could definitely happen. I just think that the technology that's going to be housed in this system is going to be light years ahead of what the PS4 had, and we're going to have to see a price point that's going to really speak to that. Let's just talk about a couple of those things I brought up earlier. Got backwards support. You also have the PS5 VR being built right into the system. You have up to 8K resolution, meaning that CPU and GPU are going to be powerhouses built around all these different new technologies that just released in the open market. You know, ray tracing is something that just came out, and it's only seen in some of the highest end graphics cards that still cost $300 to $400 each. Now, I do know that these are all built on systems on a chip, so that can decrease the price drastically, but man, that is still a hefty price to pay when it comes to that type of technology, especially when it's on the bleeding edge. And then you got the one big thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, that SSD. That solid state drive running on that PCIe 4.0 connection. Those load speeds, and they say it's a custom style SSD, is pretty incredible. And they say it's gonna be something that people are gonna really notice when they play the games. Well, first of all, they talk about size. I think anything going into next generation, 1 terabyte is good, but 2 terabytes would be better. Even a 1 terabyte SSD costs a lot of money still. So do we really think that they're going to be able to scale down the price of those SSDs, especially this custom one that they're making specifically for the PS5, will be able to make it into a $400 box? I don't think so. I think that extra $100 buffer is going to be what is needed to actually bring this thing to bear for everybody to see when this system does come out. But guess what? It really comes down to the consumer. And if you feel like this is going to be something you want to invest in, more power to you. Me personally, I will be buying this system day one. I will pay anywhere from $600, $700 to $800 for this because I want an uncompromising experience. This is something that a lot of Xbox people dealt with when it came to the beginning of this generation, because we had the weaker system when it came to specs, but it was by far the most expensive system. This is something that I hope is rectified in the future and we don't ever see a situation like that again. But really, this comes down to the consumer. What is the consumer willing to spend on a product like this? You got phone enthusiasts, they go out and spend $2,000 on a cell phone like the Galaxy Fold. We have console people that will go out and spend $400 on a system, and we have those PC people willing to go out and just upgrade their GPUs and CPUs every year to every other year. Where do you fall? Me, like I said, that's not a big problem for me because I just like living on the bleeding edge. But if you're a console gamer, it's $600, it's $500. Is that way too much for you to spend on a system that you're gonna spend the majority of your time playing when you're not with your family and your kids are working? You might wanna just think about that a little bit. It's all about having the great experience, and if this system can give it to you at that price point, why wouldn't you support it? It's your boy Gaming Forte, and you guys have a great week. I'll talk to you later. Peace.